Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. May I take your order? Continuing topic 7, in the second section, we're going to be looking specifically at solving triangle area problems. And so we're going to be really talking about how do you find the area of triangles. So the general key idea here are, a parallelogram can be decomposed, which is just a fancy word for, broken down into two identical triangles, Notice this parallelogram, If I cut it across this diagonal here, triangle 1 and triangle 2 are identical, okay? We also know that the area of a parallelogram, from the first video of this topic, can be found by multiplying the base times the height. Okay? And we know that identical triangles have the exact same base and height, so that they would also have the same area, If this triangle is identical to this triangle, triangle 1 is identical to triangle 2, they would have the exact same area. Okay? You will also notice from this picture, that the base and the height of my parallelogram labeled here also correspond to the, let me change some colors here, the blue base of triangle 1, and the green height of triangle 1. Okay. And so the formula here, for area of a triangle is very similar to the area of a parallelogram. Okay. It starts with base times height, except because I'm dividing this parallelogram into two, because I'm cutting it into triangle 1 and triangle 2, the area of a triangle is half base times height, or half the area of the parallelogram. Again, notice that the B here, the base, is the length of the parallelogram. It's also the length of the base of the triangle. And then the height, H, is the height of the parallelogram, or in this case, the height of the triangle. So by doing base times height, I would find the area of the whole parallelogram. And then by multiplying that by half, I would find half of my parallelogram, or in this case, one of my two triangles. I think what really gets some kids, though, is how do I know what is the base and the height of a triangle? Because on a triangle, like on this triangle, for example, you'd have one measurement here in green. You would have one measurement here in blue. You would have another measurement here in red. How do I know which one's the base and which one's the height? And so there's really two ways to do that. If it's a right triangle, there's one method. And on a right triangle, it's the two sides that form the right angle are the base and the height, So in this case, based on the layout, the blue here would be my base. The green would be my height. Okay, and I would take 1/2 multiplying those together. So we could find the area of this triangle, by solving this particular expression. So if the base is 8, let's write that in the same color. If the base is 8, and the height is 8, and I multiply those together and then take half of that. Why did I write that like that? I just finished a yogurt, so I'm kind of on a little bit of a sugar high. All right. 8 times 8 is 64. And 1/2 times 64 would give us an area of 32 inches squared. At this point right now, if you're not understanding what I'm saying, I want you to pause the video and come and see me. The other option for determining the base and the height of a non-right triangle, So you're going to identify a height and a base that go together. Any side of a triangle could be the base, and the height is the perpendicular distance from that base to the opposite vertex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different ways here. So let's assume in our first way that this red line is our base. So let me write the formula here, and then we'll start filling things in. Okay, 1/2 base times height. So if the red line is our base, 16 is our base. Now the height here, it says, is perpendicular from the base to the height of the opposite vertex. So from the 16, I find perpendicular straight across to the next vertex, and that happens to be 5. And so I would take 1/2 of 16 times 5. That's option 1. Let's solve it just to be safe here, right? We know that 16 times 5 is 80. I know that 1/2 of 80 is 40 feet squared. That's option 1. Okay? I'm going to erase these marks over here, just so for my purposes, right? Let's keep the same color coding, right? If red is the base, all right, any side can be the base. So in this case now, 10 is my base. Well, they say the height is the perpendicular distance to the opposite vertex. The opposite vertex of this line is this vertex way up here. Well, they don't form a right angle down here, and that's why you see these dotted lines over here telling you that this 8 feet, that is the height of that triangle from this base to this vertex. And now we just solve this, right? I know 10 times 8 is 80. I know 1/2 of 80 is 40 feet squared. Notice, regardless of what method I solved, I got the exact same answer. That's very important. Okay, here are 3 to try. You can solve them along with me, or you can pause the screen and then check your answers. On B, I would like you to solve it in 2 ways. So really we're solving 4 problems. Okay? So I'm going to start solving one of them with you, and then I'm going to pause the screen along the way as well. If you want to pause the screen now, you're welcome to do so. Right? I know that the formula for an area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. I know that the base of this triangle is 9 centimeters. It's a right triangle, so the other side here must be the height, 9 times 6, and then I'm going to take 1/2 of that. 9 times 6 is 54. 1/2 of 54 is 27 centimeters squared. Notice I did a lot of the computation in my head. This is the level of work I expect to see when you're doing these. This is the level of work I expect to see when you're doing these. Pause the screen and try the rest of them if you wish. All right, there are the rest of the answers. If we jump to C, and then we'll go back to B. If we jump to C, notice it is, again, same formula, 1/2 base times height, right? So 1/2 times my base is 12. My height is 5. 1/2 of 60 gets me 30 centimeters squared. Area always in squared units. On B, notice both of my answers are correct, or excuse me, the same. Both my answers are the same, 18 meters squared. That is important. They should be the same. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple different things, right? So my base in the first part was 12, and my height, oops, sorry, I meant to have that be red. My height was 3. Okay, I got 18. In the second one, my base was 9. And you'll notice, right, that if I'm going perpendicular here to the opposite vertex of this, that's this vertex. They don't make a perpendicular angle, and that's what this out here is, just like we had on the last example, and that gave me a height of 4. Okay. Again, if you're having questions, you should come and see me immediately. Otherwise, you should log on and complete 7.2 in your online textbook. Have a great day.